Have you been facing a lot of Charmander, Litten, and other basic Pokemon with 60 HP just waiting to get hit with a rare candy because of the new rare candy meta in Celestial Guardians? As well as an army of Skarmories because of the new Solgaleo decks? Because of this meta, I built this deck right here with one simple goal: to win as fast as possible. And let me tell you right now, I just piloted it through almost the entirety of Ultra Ball Rank 2, and that's exactly what it did for me. And I'd like to just start this video with a match that shows you exactly why that is. So the main goal of this deck is to be hitting for 60 damage on the first turn that you get to attack. Hopefully taking the opponent's active Pokemon out in one fell swoop, one attack, immediately getting that first point, and then just keeping up that pressure every turn by powering up a Darkrai on your bench, and then swinging with a Farfetch'd or a Rotom out up front. In this match, my opponent probably feels pretty good. They've got a Zubat out there to block, and there's no way that Zubat's gonna die, right? Because all I have is a Farfetch'd, and there's no way I can deal 50 damage on my first turn. But wait, if we put the Dark Energy on our Darkrai first, then use Dawn to move it up to our active Farfetch'd, boom, 60 damage. And this is something you're gonna be pulling off quite a bit. It's not gonna happen every single game, but it's gonna happen in a lot of games. And then as soon as that's done, after likely killing their active Pokemon right off the bat, then every turn you just power up the Darkrai with one energy and then just keep hitting for that 60 over and over, using quite a few Pokemon tools to just keep up that pressure. And there you have it. My opponent can't do anything, concedes so early in the match because they see the writing on the wall that the pressure is just going to continue, and ultimately my Darkrai is going to come in to finish things off. Real quick, I just want to shout out, there is a gift code out there right now floating around that you can use. All you have to do is go to this website, punch in your account information, punch in the gift code, and boom, you're going to get 2 free packs and 500 trade tokens. So I just wanted to put that information out there again, just in case anybody missed that. I don't know if everybody's seen this yet. If you haven't used it yet, you can just pause the video now, go ahead and follow the instructions on the screen. And with that out of the way, I want to show you all a crazy 5-win streak I had with this deck, as I just did an absolute speed run with this deck from Ultra Ball 1 all the way to Ultra Ball Rank 3. So these matches I'm about to show you come right after I had ended a 5-win in a row win streak. All the ranks have basically just been reset. We're obviously going up against a non-meta deck. We've got a Shuppet, which is the only one I've ever seen so far. And my opponent, unfortunately, only has one Pokemon out front. This is something that has happened many times with me playing this deck. We're looking for the Darkrai, ended up getting it. And because we run 2-leaf in this deck, we were actually able to switch our Rotom out to get the Farfetch'd up front, to go ahead and start getting that early pressure on going. Now, it is possible sometimes it might be better to just go ahead and start powering up the Darkrai, but in this case, this was basically just an easy win. I mean, it's just a Banette deck. But is it possible? Once again, I think sometimes your opponents get a little bit of a false sense of security because you might have thought, okay, well, there's no way he can kill me this turn. I don't have to play anything out of my bench because I've got 50 HP. This Dawn is such a surprising insta-win option against a lot of people if they don't respect it, and if they just think, oh, okay, I'm safe, there's no way he can do any extra damage. He's not going to be running like a Giovanni, which of course I'm also been running that too, at least early on. That match was actually a perfect showcase of why I love this deck. I love just getting those instant wins like that. I've gotten many of those types of instant wins. Here we're up against a Steel Energy leading off with a Cosmog. Once again, you know, some of these matches my opponents aren't having the best luck, but that happens sometimes. And the wonderful thing about this deck is when your opponents stumble a little bit, you get to just absolutely annihilate them and crush them. And then the game is over like pretty much instantaneously. If you stumble, sometimes you're not going to have a great draw. Sometimes you're going to just have a terrible draw. You can't really do anything. The plan doesn't come together. That happens with every deck. And when that happens, you can concede quickly. You can win extremely quickly, and you can concede pretty quickly also. So the matches are extremely quick, and that helps because, you know, you really only need like a 50% win rate anyways to actually get through these ranks. So this deck allows you to just get in, get out really quick. And even if this deck, okay, am I going to come out here and say, oh, guys, this is the best deck for rank? I'm sure it's not. But it's because it gets in and gets out so quick, even if it doesn't have the best overall win rate, it is able to climb super fast. And of course, I did have a really great win rate with it anyways. So this second match ended up being, again, kind of a little bit odd, weird match. My opponent stumbling again, got a relatively easy victory. And again, I'll just emphasize that this deck is great at taking advantage of when your opponent stumbles a little bit. It's great at taking advantage of things like, for example, if you go against a Rampardos deck, they almost always start with a Riolu out front so much of the time. They have those fossils with 40 HP. Again, boom, you can take advantage of it. All right, here's a perfect example of what I was just talking about. We've got a Gible out front. It's got 60 HP. We aren't able to get a perfect start with this deck. We had to end up using a leaf to bring the Darkrai back because we had a little bit of bad luck at the very beginning of the game, but we're still able to assemble this perfect setup where we've got the Farfetch'd Rotom. It's good if you're going to go ahead and put that Darkrai out. It's best if you can have at the beginning 2 different of these basics to shield yourself from Sabrina, which is exactly what happened. My opponent had the Sabrina, and that allowed us to keep our pressure up, keep our Darkrai safe. And because, once again, our opponent is kind of stumbling a little bit here, which, of course, this is like a double rare candy deck. Of course, they're going to stumble sometimes. So we get an instant kill on the first Gible. It's just a Farfetch'd and a Darkrai. Then the second Gible comes out, basically the exact same thing. Opponent stumbled, and then boom, easy, quick victory. Now, if you play this deck, are you just going to get all these just ultra quick, lightning quick victories? No, of course not, because the opponent's not always going to stumble every time, but when they do, again, you're going to take advantage of it most of the time. And just like that, you saw how fast those matches are, and we're off to a 3-win streak. All right, now we got our 4th game. We've got basically the perfect setup. There is a question. I'm not really sure still whether you should potentially keep the Darkrai in your hand sometimes. If I have the leaf in my hand, I'll go ahead and usually put the Darkrai out because it means if they Sabrina me to force the Darkrai out, at least I can get the Darkrai back on the bench. But if you don't have the leaf in your hand, you might consider to yourself whether you should just keep the Darkrai in your hand if you're thinking, is your opponent going to have any way to mess with your hand? And in this match, there was a question. I wasn't sure whether I should go ahead and try to ping down and kill that Charmander real quick first, or if I should go ahead and Sabrina early to bring out that Magmar. And I went ahead and decided to go with the Sabrina just because I saw them building up the Magmar on the bench. That could have potentially possibly been a mistake. I'm not sure. Looking back at it in hindsight, I think I probably should have just tried to kill down the Charmander first, because that way, like, our Darkrai should always be able to take out the Magmortar, I'm pretty sure. And playing this game the way I did, it did give the possibility to go ahead and build up to that Charizard and potentially give us a little bit of some problems. The Giovanni in hand, let me talk about that for a second. My idea with the Giovanni was that the Rotoms were there to combat Skarmories with tools on them. And with the Giovanni, it allows for you to hit for 50, get 20 more for the super effective, and then you can have another option to deal 10 more to just one-shot them. That did actually end up happening once or twice, but it wasn't really common enough for me to feel like it's really warranted, and I actually ended up switching that for Sabrina after I played a lot of these matches. If you stick around to the end, I'll show you my final iteration of this list after I got like 75% of the way through Ultra Ball 2. And talk again about some final card choices and some discussions on cards and the relation to the meta and things like that. All right, here we are up against Darkrai Giratina. We have a very suboptimal draw. These are the kind of draws where, you know, you're going to typically just concede and lose pretty quick, hop back in and just start over and just, again, get in and get out with this deck. Super hyper aggressive. It's a hyper-aggressive play style, and you can also very aggressively just get in and get out of matches quickly and not have to worry about it too much. Now, as I'm actually recording this video right now, this deck, Darkrai Giratina, just absolutely clobbered and was all over the last huge tournament that just happened over the weekend. This is probably not going to be a great matchup, and this deck, it is going to depend on the meta that you're facing and what all decks you're going against. If suddenly this deck makes a huge rise up again, then you might not want to play this deck, and you do need to keep in mind, just in general, what are all the decks you're going against? Does this deck have a good matchup against those decks? I had been facing so many decks that were playing rare candies and had these 60 HP up front, and also the deck like Solgaleo with the Skarmory, so that was why I originally built this. If the meta shifts, which it does pretty quickly, it looks like this deck may make an appearance again, then you might want to go ahead and consider not running this and think about a different deck that pairs up well against the current meta. Alright, so let's wrap this video up with a quick talk about all the different cards in this deck. This is the final version that I've been playing through kind of the last 25% of Ultra Ball Rank 2 with, and going forward that I'll probably test out if I want to keep testing out this style of deck. We've got 2 Farfetch'd, that's like the whole point of the deck, combined with the 2 Darkrai, again, the whole point of the deck. And then you're going to see what's probably going to be a bit of a surprise, Kangaskhan. I've always wanted to try this card out. I've always thought it had some potential, so I just wanted to test it out. We've got the Rotom, which I already talked about. Still want to keep testing that out, even though I don't think 2 is right, unless you're going against enough Solgaleo matches, which I just haven't been recently all of a sudden. 2 Leaf and 2 Dawn, absolutely essential. I would not change any of those. 2 Rocky Helmet and 1 Poison Barb. I could see potentially messing with this, maybe switching 1 Helmet over to 1 Barb, or even considering potentially 4 Tools. 2 Pokeball and 2 Research, absolutely essential. And then finally, I did change that Giovanni over to a second Sabrina. I've been pretty happy with this setup of 2 Sabrina, 1 Cyrus. So this is where I'm at. This is what I'm going to keep testing. Let me know what you think of this style of video, and please consider subscribing if you're interested in competitive ranked tournaments. I plan to try to get a video out every day or 2 or 3 days or so from this point onwards. So consider subscribing if you want to see, especially these kind of off-the-wall decks. I enjoy playing a little bit more obscure, kind of strange off-meta decks and testing and trying them out. Of course, I'm going to play meta decks too, but I like to show off interesting new ideas and show the decks that are maybe not getting in the spotlight as much because they're not as popular and things like that. And most importantly, again, any feedback you have on these style of videos, I'm more than happy to hear to try to improve these types of videos. And with that, I'll wrap up here. Thank you. See you later.